Are you someone who has experience with a mix of sewing but is looking to get into the bridal sewing niche? This channel is for you. Hit subscribe to become a part of the community. Hey, welcome back to Bridal Sewing Techniques, and today you may notice that the audio is a little bit different. I am just getting my audio from the shotgun mic on my camera. I just need a different setup today because this is just going to be answering the questions that you guys had on the community tab. So channel homepage, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to community. This is where last month I asked you guys, hey BSD besties, what is the one regular alteration that you have to do that leaves you thinking there has got to be a better way? Tell me, and let's see if we can simplify your process for a faster workflow and more professional technique. Hope you guys are doing great, with a heart from me. Okay, let's start with this one. Knowing exactly how to position the cups when they are not original to the dress and are being added, and also how to be accurate with sizing for cups, underwire, etc. Okay, let me show you the kind of cup that I normally use. The cups are not sized like bra cups, okay? As always, I link to products on the products page of my website. So you can go to bridalsewingtechniques.com and then click on the products page and that will show you. So basically, these are a size B. Let's see if I can get this to focus. See the letter B right there? They're a size B. And what I do with these, I almost always buy the same cups. I do sometimes get the teardrops, and then sometimes I just get the perfectly round shells. Now the round shells, I do use a variety of sizes. But with the push-up pads, I find that this padding is the right amount for just about everybody. I do not buy the demi cups. They sell the demi cups. I don't buy them, because we have to keep so many different types of pads and cups in stock that I like to simplify. So I just get this kind, and then when I need it to be a different shape, I literally just cut it out, the shape that it needs to be. And I've gotten really fast with it. I just cut both of them just to match. And as you get used to it, you know, I know the first time you'll probably be nervous or whatever, but as you get used to it, it's very simple. You just kind of match the cut on both of them. So that's what I do. And then basically I'm going to take my fingers like this, and I'm going to find the apex of the bust of the gown, and I'm going to nest this point right here into the apex of the bust. And sometimes you need to rotate it a little bit depending on the shape. You know, obviously if it's more of a V cut that you're going for, you might want to rotate so that the breasts are pushed more toward the inside. And then if it's more of a, you know, straight across or a full coverage kind of thing, you know, sweetheart, you might want to just do them straight across like that. But basically you just kind of position them. Some people only place these when the bride has the dress on. So basically you first fit the dress to the bride, and then you slip the cups in. You get them positioned where everything looks right, and then you pin it in a few places. And then when she takes the dress off, you do what we call trust the pins. And you sew them in the way that they looked good on her. That means if they were like this, if they looked good like that, and that made her look even, because our bodies are terribly asymmetrical, right? Then that's how you sew that in. So you can do it either way. If they're not here, just nest the apexes together and angle it based on the design of the gown. Or you can really customize the look of it by putting them in after the bride has been fitted to the dress and she puts it in the way that works for her. How about when taking in the bodice and skirt at the back and replacing the zipper when the skirt is multi-layered? I have a dickens of a time getting the bottom to lay right. Okay, so yes, I do have a video where I replace the zipper on a skirt like that, and I even take it in with it. So I think that's what I was sending her to. So this Karen Ramneth comes in and adds another layer to the question. If the skirt is gathered, you can open the waist seam a little and regather the extra skirt back in to match the new center back seam. Then the zipper is much easier to put back into the skirt as it goes right back where it was before. I think this is what she's saying. Kelly, if it's not, just correct me, but this is what I'm picturing. Okay, so you've got your hook and loop at the top, right? And then you've got whatever else is going on at the bodice, and then you've got your zipper going on here. So this is the back of the dress, and this is the center back of the seam, and you're going to want to set the zipper here. But let's say you're taking the dress in like this much. Okay. So I have found it lays better rather than trying to do this much and taper back in and get back to your original spot, which I think is a lot of people try to do that. I put the zipper in, like if you're going to take it in 1 inch on each side, a total of 2 inches, I put the zipper in straight, the same amount all the way down, and then when you get to the end of where you need the zipper to function, you're going to go ahead and sew the new center back seam here, drop down a few inches, and then you're going to go ahead and start your, let's see if I can get you to see that part. You're going to go ahead and start bringing it together. And if this does any kind of weird pulling under here, most of the time when you're talking about the multi-layered skirt that she's asking about, most of the time all the tulle and stuff is going to cover that if there's any type of pulling that is to be had there. But yeah, so what Kelly is saying is if it's gathered, what you do is you separate the gathered layer from these, you know, more flat laying lining layers. You separate it through here, and I go beyond it, you know, an inch or two beyond our new, where we're going to newly place the zipper. Separate all your layers out here, and I only sew it to those main lining layers, and I leave the gathered tulle alone. And then like she's saying, you just kind of regather, you just kind of compress this, inch it back to where all of your tulle starts where your zipper is. And so you're going to have a little bit more density right there nearing the zipper, but it's usually not enough to be noticeable. So it's not really enough to worry about that. So I hope that answered your question, Kelly Jo. I appreciate that. Okay, I always have problems with the top stitching when I put the bodice and the lining back together. I never get it to look like it originally did. All right, so I think that you're asking about this part right here, the lining and the outer shell layer at the side seam, the underarm. And guys, please excuse, look here. Paint, okay? Paint, there. I'm a creative. I can't help it. I was having to paint something today, and it is like, it's on there. It's not coming off on the dresses. So anyways, I'm not a hand model, remember guys? All right, so basically I don't worry about getting that back together. This is really easy to get it back together where you put it under a machine and get it just right if you do this before you attach the skirt to the bodice. And I think a lot of times that's what's happening. It takes a lot of time and a little bit of risk actually to put the whole skirt of the dress under here, you know, to have these two, the outer layer and the lining splayed apart, and to go ahead and do this stitch like this is how it would have to be done, right? So basically I just don't. I make sure that it's super neat. And I think I got into this in the hang loops video, but basically when I'm done, I usually, you know, I would never put my hanger loop this close because they tend to make an appearance, unwanted appearance on the wedding day. I usually drop it down about 1 inch or so, and I do the loop, I sew the loop across this way, and I stitch in the ditch across this way, loop going forward. That way it's encouraged to kind of go this way when it's on the bride. But when I find that if I have this where this is sewn very neat right here, And then if this is completely removed and I'm stitching in the ditch right here, it kind of holds all these layers together. It stitches through the boning and everything. It's down in the ditch, so it's not a noticeable stitch at all, and it prevents this from rolling. So basically when I'm done, a lot of times you'll see this stitch going along here and then it'll kind of stop. It'll still be sewn very neatly, and then the stitch starts back up again, and then it's kind of tethered together with the hanger loop stitch. So that's just personally how I handle that. I know many seamstresses go through and actually just hand stitch this. They just do a little hidden stitch back here that's not seen on the outside. That's a perfectly fine way of doing it as well. I just find, since I have to replace the hanger loops anyways, put them back in after I'm working, I just go ahead and let that kill two birds with one stone. So as you know, with this channel, I don't focus on what is the most elaborate, most difficult way that you could alter something, right? I try to give you tips and tricks where you can save time and save money for your brides. And I have found, man, during this pandemic, that approach to this channel has become so much more important. A lot of people, many people just do not have the money that they had before. So whereas they wouldn't have mind paying the extra that it would have cost to do this the original way and really take your time for that little detail, nowadays they're saying, nobody's going to see it. I don't care. Just save me money. And they just want it to look good, perform perfectly, and be as affordable as possible. So you'll find that's the approach that most of my tips and tricks go for. I really feel like most any seamstress who is experienced with sewing can kind of reverse engineer, and we can figure out how they sewed it and go back and do it exactly as it was originally. It's just not very wise with our time usually, and therefore it's not very affordable most of the time. All right, so Laura asks, replacing the entire illusion back of a dress with 35 plus buttons and loops, so much time. And then Karen also says, or the buttons / loops at the ends of the sleeves. I can get it looking good and tidy now, but the time it takes. Hey, anybody got ideas for replacing elastic button loops? The dresses come made with it, but they break easily. Yes, they do. And I can't get replacement loop elastic here. Karen, I wish I knew where you were. We can get it here in the US, but I wish I knew where you were. So you can comment down below and let's see if we can help you. The best thing I've found so far is make very thin tubes of tulle using a tube turner. Okay. All right. So, man, there's several questions embedded in this. Basically, Laura, replacing the entire illusion back of a dress. I don't have a fast way for that one. Okay, so that one's just going to take a long time, and therefore, listen up, guys. Hey, wake up. Listen, this is super important. When something takes a long time, don't you have any shame about charging for it. You charge what it takes. You don't charge less because you feel bad for them. That's not fair to you. If you're in this for a business, and I do have a video, I'll try to put it up here in the cards later, but I have a video about money questions and also how to know when you're ready to sew, start a sewing business, and this is a part of it. If you are in this for the business of sewing, which is my target audience here, if you're here as a hobbyist, welcome. We love you. That's great, you know. But my comments are mostly directed to, like I say in at the beginning of my videos, are you someone who has experience with a mix of sewing but is looking to get into the bridal sewing niche? This channel is for you. Okay, so this is for the business of that. This takes a long time, therefore it costs a lot of money. It's fine that you feel sorry for them that it costs a lot of money. I feel sorry for brides sometimes too that it costs a lot of money, but it is what it is. If they want to save money, you know, you can patch over some of the holes with lace or whatever. If they don't want to do that, then they'll have to budget for it. And mostly, I'll just tell you, they'll tell you they don't have money, but I have found in many, many instances, it's not a question of how much money they have. It's a question of their priorities. Because if you were to say, look at their alcohol budget for the party that they are going to have at the reception. Okay, if you look at things like that, a lot of times you're going to find thousands of dollars allocated to something else, and then they're going to come in and try to make you feel guilty and get you to stay up working till 2 o'clock in the morning on their dress just so they can pay you half a nothing. And then there you are with your grocery bill and your light bill doing the best you can, and they're out partying and they just drank away thousands of dollars. So that's my feelings on it. And you need to think like that as a business owner. You need to be fair both ways. Be fair to the bride, be fair to yourself. If this takes forever, you charge them for forever, okay? Now, Karen, about the buttons and loops at the end of the sleeves. I do have a shortcut for this, and I need to make a separate video of it. And I think I might even have footage of it. But a shortcut for that, okay? Let's say, and man, I just did this week. I sure enough did. All right, let's say this is what we have going on. We've got our loops. We've got our buttons. Da-da-da-da. We've got our little pretty lace. Okay, they might even have some lace somewhere else, but typically speaking, this is like your tulle illusion, the netting, right? You've got your buttons and loops, and you've got your cuff of lace, typically speaking. What I do is I cut, starting here, and I just cut around this, okay? And then I take this whole cuff slides off then, and then you're left with this. And let's say they just need to shorten it by like an inch. You're going to come up here, and you're going to attach it this way. So all of this is going to come up, all of it's going to come up an inch. I hope you can picture that. All of it, bring it this way. And then you're going to take your applique stitch or free motion stitch, and you're going to, now just pretend like it's been cut off and this is the new edge. You're just going to sew right along the edge of that. And then you probably only need to slit open the remaining amount of the, the seam that's closed. Slit that open to accommodate to the top of the zippers. And there's your new cuff. So, no, I do not replace these buttons and loops. I replace them if they need to be replaced. Like if they're sprung, like if the loops are broken, half the buttons are missing and they don't match or whatever. Yes, then we're going to talk about replacing them. But I literally just detach the whole cuff, bring it up. Sometimes, yes, you need to taper this. You need to bring this in a little bit if the sleeve is actually more like this, and then when you bring it in, You guys should all be familiar with that, though, because of, like, if you hem a pants, pants or a long coat or something that tapers, you're already used to having to adjust it to where they'll line up. So that's the way I handle that. And this alteration, just doing it this cheap way, again, anybody can figure out how to reinvent the wheel on this. You take all the lace off, take your buttons and loops off, you shorten it, you put your new loop tape on, also all your buttons, do your applique. You're going to open up the whole seam of the arm so you can do your applique stitch of your lace, all that back on. We understand that, but this is about doing it cheaper. So there's that. I'm trying to think of how long it would take me to move those cuffs up. I'd say maybe 30 minutes to move both of them up, okay? Care Bear says, pinning and hemming multiple layers and having them stacked perfectly. And I was saying, definitely catch my current story on here before it expires, because I actually did a story on that. Let me show you. Basically what I do is either use a huge cutting table, or you can use the floor. And you're going to take the bodice of the gown. I'm going to make this a short skirt, okay? You're going to lay this out. Sometimes you can't lay it all out at one time because it's cut on such a circle and it's got so many panels in it, and sometimes you have to do it like one panel at a time. But basically I take a like a veil hook and clamp this together, or like a wonder clip or something. Make sure this is clamped together. I come down here and I put a pin through here, aligning the side seams of the skirt on the back side and the top side. And let's say your pin is here, and let's say she wants to remove some of the side flare, and then even let's say she even wants to reduce some of the footprint of the gown, and this is our new hemline. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to pin in all these critical places. Again, sometimes you have to do a segment at a time, move it back over, do another flat segment, move it back over. But do what you got to do to work your way across the skirt. So I'm going to put pins in it at all these critical junctures and make sure everything is perfectly aligned. I pin where the dress meets the floor. And so I'll mark it, and then I mark how they want this to be. And then I just go through with my shears, and I'm going to cut, usually, like, let's say this is a rolled hem. I'm going to go ahead and cut, I give myself about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch. And it really doesn't even matter. Even if it's like a bagged hem, I give myself like 1 inch hem allowance. So whatever your hem allowance has to be for the type of hem that you're cutting. And I just go ahead and I just cut along that line. And then I go back and hem it. So if you've got multiple layers, basically you're gonna, you know, start with like the slip layer underneath the lining layer. I usually cut that off more like to the ankle or the top of the foot so that it's a comfortable length, even if they're running around in the room while they're getting ready, or if they pick up all their layers, it's rainy, they pick up their layers. This one's still going to be completely out of the way, but cover their legs when they walk. So I basically just lay this one flat and just cut that off, right? And then I'm going to be moving, I'm going to flip all these upper layers out of the way and just pull them down a layer at a time. Sometimes you can do a couple layers if they're cut exactly the same, but I'm going to pull them down a layer at a time, bunching all the other top layers, lifting them all up in a big mess above the dress. Pull them down, cut. Pull them down, like shove this one up underneath it, you know. Cut the next one, shove it up. Pull them down, cut the next one, making sure you don't cut the dress that's up underneath here. But that's the way I do working my way through. You can do this on the floor. I also do this hanging a lot of times. I'll have it hanging, you know, I've got the video about the chain system where I've got this, and I can hang the dress at whatever height I need. And then same thing, I'm going to pin these sides together. So I'm going to end up, it's going to end up hanging just like this with the sides mirrored and pinned. And I'm going to be cutting them like this, one layer at a time. Let's see, Karen, when you need to hem a tulle gown with a lace border, sometimes the lace border is too dagged, I think she's saying, meaning the points of the lace go very high and very low. So I would usually say it's got quite a swing to it. I call it a swing lace. Or bits of the lace motif stick out at odd angles. Can I get an amen? Yes, we do see that. And this makes it impossible to just cut the tulle to move up the lace. And the lace is also sewn on with impossibly tiny, tight stitching. What's the best way to get the lace off in order to position it higher with minimal damage to the tulle? Okay, so with this one, you don't always have to completely pick the hem apart. So, like, let's say... And again, guys, somebody was asking me the other day, let me show you this. When I say it's in my videos, let me just show you. If you go to my channel homepage and just go to uploads, or you can go to videos and sort by like this, you can see all of my videos. So you can go through here. Some of these videos are so helpful and YouTube doesn't push them, so you're not going to find them unless you go through and look like this. Okay, I try to always put a video in a playlist, but it's not always. But I have this in a video. Basically, when you've got a big swing like this, and let's say your new hem is just going to be like right in the middle of the swing, You only have to separate the tips from the tulle, right? Separate the tips. So let me expand this. Like, let's say it looks like this, and your new hem length is like right here, okay? And then this is the edge. This is the applique. This is the tulle. You only have to pick this apart from the tulle right here, okay? Then you cut this, all one piece, the tulle and the lace. You just cut around. It doesn't matter how intricate it is. You can do all the cutting on the tulle that you want as long as you're below this line, right? And then you're just going to move it all back up as an applique. So that saves piles of time. All right, Deborah Bell, shortening lined sleeveless shoulder seams that don't match up. So the back usually has to be tapered in. Let's see. Okay, Karen, thank you for helping out with that on that one. Yes. So Karen's comment is perfectly applicable, but just in case you guys are not clear on that, what she's talking about, here's the back of the gown. We see this a lot. The back of the gown, it's almost like a boat neck shape, right? And then in the front, you've got this, you've got a more skinny, like let's say it's a V-neck in the front. And you see this invisible dress? So this is the back. And then the front is going to be more of this really skinny strap. Okay, so then your back barely comes up. That's what we're talking about. Hopefully seeing that both ways will help you. So see that? Okay. So basically, when you take it up, what she's talking about is you end up getting into this like wide stuff really quick, right? The more you take it up, the wider it gets. Your angle gets off and the skinny stuff gets kind of messed up. Well, basically what you might end up getting into, and every bride's going to be a little different for this. I wish there was a cut and dry answer, but you're going to try to do most of your taking up with the front. You're going to kind of feed that down into this. So it's going to look like this on the inside. Do that. Well, but then your back is going to be too long. Okay. So you can either cut down the back and make a whole new deal where you can take it in with equivalency from the front to the back. Or you can have this sit right, and then sometimes we have to do like the fisheye alteration where, like, if they've got lace all over the back, you can do this. Like if they've got buttons and lace, you can actually do these darts and take out a few buttons and loops here, sew it back together, and you've got lace covering it and nobody will know the difference. You can do that, or possibly even shorten it here where the bodice meets the skirt. So you're going to just have to work this out different for every bride, but I hope that helped clarify that you're on the right track with not knowing if there's like kind of a rule for how to do that. There's really not. How to do lace fabric overlay. Can you do a tutorial for us? That one would indeed be a tutorial, but in the meantime, what you want to do is just look up draping technique. So basically you're just going to, what I would do is throw the dress on a dress form and do the draping technique where you'll see it when you search that. I don't have any draping technique videos, but I'm sure there's plenty out there where you pin the fabric onto the dress and cut around it and, you know, cut all the seams as they need to be. And then you're going to kind of like put that over the dress, and then you have to open up the seams and put it in the seams wherever it needs to be, like that. All right, so Frances is asking, when you take in the size of a dress, and she's talking about the slope on the side, when you're taking it up pretty significantly, and let's say it's a dress that's from the side, let's say, actually let's make it a little more dramatic. Let's say it's got a low back, and then when you take it up at the side seams, you end up with this mix match. So you take it up and you end up with almost like a, it goes like this, side seam. You get this, okay? So I have before taken one in so much that the step was too great to kind of schmooze in like we like to do. And I actually had to like add fabric like this. And you could even do something pretty there. Lace, tulle, whatever. Tulle illusion with a little lace applique. You can do that. But most of the time, if you can, we usually just end up rounding out this corner, which usually means shortening the boning here. We round out this corner, and then I use every bit of the seam allowance here that was on the edge of the fabric and really open this up. And sometimes I have to hand stitch a stitch that covers over the edge of that just to get this to swoop up a little bit, and it's just going to be a really dramatic swoop. So in this instance, you're going to need to make sure that their boning is very sufficient because they're very quickly losing their support here. Well, I agree, Karen, with what you're saying there. Thank you again, Karen, for being so active in this community, helping with this. Also, Sue Iverson, you're amazing, rock star. Thank you so much for always helping out so much in the comments. How to get more shoulder movement on a cap sleeve. All right, a couple different things here. Number one, prepare them. This is something you're going to deal with at the initial consultation, and just let them know if you have a cap sleeve or a drape sleeve that they want to fit snugly and flush to their body. Both of those severely inhibit range of motion. So go ahead and let them know ahead of time that a comfortable cap sleeve that gives them lots of range of motion is a loose cap sleeve. The other thing you can do, and I've done before, is when you have like this, I have kind of put a false edge on this and tethered in here. This is an imaginary line. You're not actually going to have a line inside. I have actually tethered elastic to the inside so that when they're standing there formal, it goes perfectly in, and you need to do little ribbon loops that keep them on track. But when they pull their arm away, and some of you are you're gonna come after me for this one. I can see it coming. Some of you are gonna be so mad that I do this, but I work for the bride, you know? And the brides that I have done this for have loved it. So when they, and it would never be this much. It's really just barely even an inch, but it just doesn't stop them so abruptly. So I'm exaggerating again with this, but basically when they pull their arm out a little ways, this is going to move with them. This is done at the back. And it's something, again, it's going to pull right back in when they're standing formal and their arms are down. So it's really only going to be seen pretty much at the reception. You can also make the cap sleeves removable. You can put a series of clear snaps where they can take it off for the reception. That's going to be super popular. Plump bride, largest dress you can get is 2 inches too small, 10 inches too small in the waist. Great day. Okay. All right, so basically when you're going to have to let a dress out a lot, you do need several fittings usually, but I have footage of this somewhere, but I thought it would be easier to sketch. So basically what I do is I get the bride in the dress, side seam again, ta-da, this is a terrible drawing right here. You guys are here for the terrible drawings today, aren't you? In my defense, I'm having to draw at a really weird angle because the camera has a better angle than I have right now to draw. This is quite crooked. Anyway, so I get the bride in the dress. She is so happy in her dress. And I'm going to split it open down the side while she's in it. Okay, so split the side seam so that it's almost like there's a front and a back. It's almost like an apron. Actually, let's give her a mermaid because this is going to be trickier with a straighter style dress than like an A-line You guys can figure it out for A-line ball gown. All right, so let's say it's not fitting in her donk area and her thighs. When you split it open, you're really going to start seeing where she needs most of the gusseting done. Okay, so basically, she needs a gusset like this, right? Let me get you showing here. And just cut strips of ribbon all along the way. When it gets tricky, just use more pieces of ribbon. Ribbon is cheap. Cut strips of ribbon and safety pin them to the dress. And then when she's gone, you can lay the dress down and you can get your exact measurements from this. Okay, this will be 3 inches, 4 inches. Okay, this is going to be like 5.5. And you go through and you can make your pattern completely out of this. Another thing that you can do, if you have one, this is easy too. Just put in a big strip of fabric that's at least as the widest part that it needs to be. Put a big strip of fabric in, and then also pin that all along the way. And then with that, you can actually even draw on the fabric and then take it out, and then you can cut it with your seam allowance needed, and that's your pattern that you're going to use for cutting on the actual bridal quality fabric to sew it in. That's how I do that. Guys, please share this on social media. Please. When you share, it helps my channel so much. I want to produce more videos for you guys, but with my channel size, honestly, like, it just doesn't pay a lot, and so I have to be working as a seamstress to make my living. So the more you share and the larger the channel gets, the more time I can put into video production. So when YouTubers say hit like, hit subscribe, hit that bell, and share this video, they are not kidding. When you put this up on sewing forums, sewing groups online, by the way, I did finally set up a Facebook page. I'm not a Facebooker, but you can find me now, Bridal Sewing Techniques, or also Brenda LaBolt, Brenda space LABOLT. You will find me on there. Anyways, if you can share this video on your Facebook, Instagram, wherever, other platforms, text it to your friends, whatever, it helps me so much. Please just take a minute to do that. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps so much. All right, I think that's everything from the community tab, guys. Thank you so much for participating in that. And let me know if you have any more questions, please. I actually love doing these Q&A videos. YouTube doesn't love them because they're not very searchable. Because there's so many topics that we cover, it's hard for me to give it a title that will attract people to it. So when I make these Q&A videos, it's basically for you guys, my BST besties, the ones who are subscribed and who get the notification and watch it. And as you've noticed, these Q&A videos are just like a gold mine of information. I love doing them. And it lets me get into your brains and see what are you guys struggling with, because what's easy for me may be hard for you and vice versa. So we all need to compare notes. It's so much fun. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope this has helped you. We'll see you in the next video. Bye. I know what you're looking for. You've been sewing for years, but you want to get into full-time bridal sewing. But there's something missing. You're missing the backroom secrets, the industry tips and tricks. The tools, the sources, the techniques that give you the speed and the accuracy that the industry demands. You have found it.